Hey, what's going on everybody? Today is Thursday, June 25th. I'm going to be talking a little bit about the PPP, EIDL, and some tax-free payments that you can make to yourself or your employees. But first, if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to my channel. I would really appreciate that. Stay updated with everything going on with the pandemic. And also smash that like button, because I know it only takes a second, maybe it takes less than a second, but that would help out a lot as well. Also, if you wouldn't mind, comment below on what your favorite movie or movie that you really enjoy at the moment, okay? I've been doing this lately because I just want to bring the humanity back into all the stuff that's been going on. So, favorite movie, would really appreciate it. My favorite movie, well, I don't know if I really have a favorite movie, but I really did enjoy The Matrix when I was younger. I watched that movie probably like 20, 30 times. Yeah, it's crazy. Matrix and obviously the Star Wars series. So let me know what you guys think down below. Okay, now to start off with the PPP, what I initially thought was that in order to apply for forgiveness, you had to wait until your covered period was over. And if you elected the 24-week covered period, that's 6 months. That's a long time. And for some folks, that doesn't really make sense, especially self-employed people, now that you get full forgiveness. So the Department of Treasury released an interim ruling a couple of days ago saying that you can apply for forgiveness at any point before your covered period is over. And you have until 10 months after the last day of your covered period to apply for forgiveness. So you have like a long time to do it, okay? I think that's good because I think that can get it out of people's minds, get it off their shoulders sooner than later. And in doing so, they can have the forgiveness, have it taken care of, or if there's any issues, they can take care of it or have more time to take care of it. For self-employed folks, I definitely recommend taking care of this sooner than later. I would say as soon as your bank opens the forgiveness application and their process in doing it, I would jump on that right away, okay? I know the SBA has their own forgiveness application, and I think the banks will all use that application. But just like applying for the loan, I think they're all going to have like their own electronic version of it, just to make it more streamlined, to make it easier to do. So if you're self-employed and you don't have any employees, I would definitely recommend taking advantage of that as soon as possible. If you do have employees, then it gets a little more tricky, because if you had to furlough employees or you had to lay some employees off and you have possibly a reduction in FTE and maybe even a reduction in wages, it might be more beneficial to you to wait until your covered period is over to give you the best chance of forgiveness. So if you're waiting until the 24 weeks is up or until the 8 weeks is up, just to make sure that you have all your employees back on staff, and make sure if you have any reduced wages during the time, you can get them back up to their normal levels before your covered period is up and before you apply for forgiveness. Because as you know, a reduction in either of those things will affect your forgiveness amounts. The other thing I want to talk about the PPP is that it is expiring in 5 days. So if you have not applied for it, you need to jump on that right away. I mentioned in my previous videos that you got to use Bluevine or Cabbage if you want something quick. Don't go to a bigger bank like Chase or Wells Fargo, because they're not going to help you out, okay? They're not going to get it done in 5 days. So check out bluevine.com or cabbage.com, Kabbage.com. Get your loan there. Both of those places in recent weeks have been approving loans within hours if done correctly. So check it out, get your PPP before time runs out. As I mentioned in my previous video, there might be another round of PPP version 2, or they call it the PPPP or P4. It's another round of PPP for businesses after they've exhausted their first and initial round of PPP. So that's in the talks too. Stay tuned for that. I'll keep you updated. Next thing I want to talk about is just some updated EIDL loan figures. As of June 21st, the SBA has approved over 1.7 million loans, and that's totaling about $113 billion. So they are not really even close to exhausting their budgeted amounts for that program, which is good. In terms of the EIDL grant, they've issued about 3.7 million grants, totaling about $12.3 billion. Still have not come close to exhausting the grant amounts there, so that's good. Jovita Carranza said that by end of last week, they should have at least had all the portal emails out to applicants that have applied, before the agriculture portal nonsense. Okay, so that's that. I don't know. I hope she's true to her word. Let me know if you apply before agriculture portal restriction, and if you've gotten your portal email yet, or if you have not gotten your portal email yet, let me know. I'd just like to know what's going on. Okay, Senator Mnuchin has stated that he's open to extending the tax deadline even more. It's not in their plans right now, but he's saying, as July 15th approaches, he's really open to considering whether or not they should extend the tax deadline even more, because he's worried that the pandemic has caused a lot of issues in getting people to get their stuff together to file taxes. So I think this would be good for people who really need it, especially if they're going to owe taxes. It's just going to help them with not having that late payment penalty and late filing penalty. However, selfishly as a CPA, this is really hard for us. Tax season is usually it's like a sprint, a 3-month sprint, and then it's done for the most part. Okay, but this sprint has been kind of extended to a longer run. It's been like a 6-month sprint now, and it's just been hard. It's been hard on CPAs, even though there's pros and cons there, but it's just been a little challenging. But I know that people were going to need it, so I think it's good for them. All right, and the last thing I want to talk about today are these tax-free payments that you might have heard of, or you might not have heard of. They're called disaster relief payments under the Section 139 of the Internal Revenue Code. So basically what these payments are is that during a declared disaster, companies can pay their employees for reimbursements of medical expenses or child care or any expenses that were incurred in order for the employee to have to work from home or set up a home office, that kind of thing. Those payments can be made to the employees, and those employees will not have to count them as income. The second side of that is that the employer or the company that makes the payment can write it off as a deduction. So that basically means that those payments go into a tax black hole. There's a double benefit there. It's tax deductible to the company and not taxed as income to the employee. So this could be a huge thing for you guys to know, if you had to incur medical expenses because of the pandemic or because of the virus, or if you had to incur additional childcare costs, that qualifies, or you had to basically set up a home office since you're working from home now. And since the current pandemic is a declared disaster officially, this Section 139 does apply to this scenario. So basically, what you want to do is, if you want to take advantage of this, make sure you keep a good documentation. Keep all your receipts from your medical bills, or if you have a caretaker, a nanny, just make sure they invoice you so you have that record and the record of paying them. And any equipment or supplies and all that crap that you have to buy for your home office, keep those receipts too. And basically, if you are the employee of your own company, then you can write yourself a check as a reimbursement for those expenses, and then you as the employee can just cash that check and not worry about counting it as income. If you are working for a bigger company, inquire about this program. See if they will offer anything for their employees for assistance, during these times, because you never know, they might. And sometimes companies don't act unless you ask them. So if this is something that could be really helpful for you or for your fellow colleagues, maybe just band together and ask and request some kind of program like this, and do point out that it would be beneficial for them as a tax deduction. We got some comments from the community here. In my last video, we had somebody say, quote, "You did not watch the video where President Trump said the stimulus check will be very generous. He was speaking with a reporter. You are very wrong about the $1,200. Your information is not current." Okay, so some things to unpack there. When President Trump speaks to a reporter and he says very generous, that doesn't mean anything about a stimulus check amount. And I believe he was talking about the stimulus package as a whole, but saying that it's very generous doesn't mean much. I still stand behind my opinion that a $1,200 one-time check per person is going to be the most likely scenario here in terms of a second stimulus check. Sorry that upsets you, but that's my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong, but we'll see, okay? Because I know President Trump says very, and then followed by an adjective a lot, and sometimes, you know, they're meaningless. So we'll see what goes on, but that's just my opinion now. I got another question here. Can I still pay myself from the SBA loan if I'm getting unemployment as well? And if yes, how can I pay myself from the same checking account? I have only one checking account. So if you're self-employed and you receive the PPP loan or the EIDL loan, my belief is that it will not really affect PUA, unemployment. Just from the nature of how self-employed income works, I don't really think it's going to affect PUA. And that's my answer to that question there. My favorite activity around this time is watching all the YouTube videos about stimulus checks. And there's a lot of videos about stimulus checks, so good on you for doing that. Last question I'll address: what if someone sold things online in their previous year but didn't gain a profit, and are not issued a 1099? Can they use that to apply for the EIDL loan? And what would need to be mentioned to them? So if you sold things online and you didn't generate a net profit, you might still qualify, because what the SBA looks for is gross profit, and that's just revenue minus cost of goods sold. And if you have gross profit, then you probably would qualify for the EIDL loan. However, if your revenue minus cost of goods sold is zero or close to zero, then you probably won't qualify, unfortunately. And yeah, you can do this without having a 1099 or anything. All right, that's all I got for today. Thanks so much for watching. Again, if you're new here, please subscribe to my channel. I'd really appreciate it. And also smash that like button. I'll see you guys tomorrow, and take care.